My name is Manali Shah, and today's conversation is going to be all about startups. Joining us is Siddharth Ramasubramanian, the founder and CEO of Hello Tempayy. Hello Tempayy is a conscious food venture that seeks to address the nutrition gap in the Indian vegetarian diet. Tempeh is an ingredient that's made from fermenting whole soybean. You've had extensive experience in the hospitality industry. You worked in different geographies, as you said. Now, how does that help you in your venture today? If you could maybe break it down in the top 3 ways that experience has helped you.
Yeah, I guess when anytime we're starting a venture, let's just start with the word experience. Let's forget what that experience is. And I think I have a lot of young folks working with me today. I'm sure that many of them are aspiring entrepreneurs. And the first thing I talk to them about is gaining meaningful experience, right? Building something, getting your hands dirty and going through the trials and tribulations of creating something, having to communicate it, having to sell it, getting people to want to buy it, to ensure that you're able to make a sale at a profitable level. Just the experience of pulling all that together. I often tell them, whether you're selling lemonade or cookies down to your neighbors, or whether you're trying to build a big business, experience is critical. So that's number one. Number two is the hospitality business, especially restaurants and hotels, is a very difficult and thankless industry. You're only as good as your last plate served. You're only as good as the last hotel stay somebody had. Nobody ever remembers you for the 10 great times they had in your restaurant or hotel. They only remember you whether the last time was good or not. And so what the hospitality business teaches you is how to relentlessly stay detail-oriented, right? While you can think big picture and you can talk about vision, what makes the hospitality industry work is thousands of people every day showing up and pulling things together so that one meal, that one hotel stay, that one spa treatment, that one parking experience, whatever it may be, actually meets the guest's expectations or exceeds it. And that ability to sort of pull things together to create those magical moments is sort of a muscle that I have built thanks to so many mentors I've had and so many people that I've had the privilege of working with. And that muscle comes in really handy when you're trying to build a business on your own. And the third thing is it's really about food, right? So food, we can talk about it in very complex ways, but it's an emotional thing, right? We never talk about, hey, I think I want a chole bhatura, or I think I want an ice cream. I feel like a chole bhatura. I feel like ice cream. I feel like eating that. So food is very much about emotion. There is a practical aspect to why you want to eat something, but there's an emotional aspect about what makes you want to long for something to eat, right? And make you crave it. So the business of restaurants teaches you that, because a customer comes, looks at a menu, looks at that menu and says, ooh, I have to order this. Ooh, this sounds really good. And so the ability to craft food menus and food programs, whether it's Italian, whether it's Indian, whether it's Chinese, whether it's a bar, whatever it may be, each one has to be crafted differently. So I think this ability to pull very sort of complex experiences together to create a magical moment, the love for food, and just the fact that one has to have level of experience doing something, building something, is I think where the relevance comes in.
Right, absolutely. Sounds like a tough industry to be in, and it's serving you well today in the venture that you're building. So now, while research, of course, is crucial, how important would you say is first-hand experience in the industry that a founder is venturing into?
I actually think that there's probably not a right answer or a wrong answer for that. I think we've seen entrepreneurs around the world build hugely successful, long-lasting businesses with little to no experience in that industry because they had a keen eye on something that they were solving, or they had a keen eye on why a particular piece of technology would enable some kind of a service, and they were amazingly good at executing it. Oftentimes what I've seen happen is experience within a certain industry can be quite blinding and quite limiting. Nobody in the hotel business ever expected that there would be an Airbnb that would show up. because we always thought a hotel was a hotel and needed to be a hotel or a resort or a timeshare. But it took somebody who had no relevant experience whatsoever in hospitality to build a brand called Airbnb, which has the largest inventory of rooms in the world, more than any Sheraton, Marriott, and so on. Right. But having said that, I think a keen perspective on solving a particular problem or enhancing a particular experience or adding so much value oftentimes comes from outside the industry. But I think what the smart ones do, and what I have tried my best to do, is coming from hospitality and moving to FMCG, is to surround yourself with people who have the bench strength and the experience in actually executing in that particular industry. Because you may have a great idea, you may have the right solution, but what you need is a good foundation of people who can tell you all the pitfalls, all the opportunities, the rights and the wrongs of how this industry operates without limiting your ability to deliver on your vision. Because your vision may be, in many times, larger than what the industry's vision of itself is. And I use Airbnb just as a simple example to folks like me who didn't see it coming, right? So when you've been in the industry 20 years and you don't see something coming, it's very possible to not have experience, but surround yourself with a great ecosystem of people.
Right, that's a very balanced perspective. So thanks for that. And now with Hello Tempayy, you're building a new category which comes with its fair share of risks. And what I want to know is, was there enough research available around this topic, or what kind of research did you undertake to determine that there was a significant market for the product in India?
Yeah, I think, I have had, and I've been lucky enough to be part of a very competitive industry for multiple reasons, which is the casino entertainment business, working in markets like Las Vegas, where everybody has a beautiful multi-billion-dollar property, whether it's the Bellagio, whether it's MGM, whether it's Venetian, whether it's Wynn. And oftentimes what happens in that industry is you have to be really good at trend spotting, right? Because it takes you 4 to 5 years to build these properties. So if you start in the year 2000, by the time you're open, it's 2004. So every decision that you made in 2000 and 2001, the customers experienced in 2004 and 2005. Right. So it's really easy to make mistakes by looking at the rear view mirror. So you really have to have the ability to look forward and make some assumptions on what could be a reality tomorrow that may not be a reality today, or maybe an emerging reality today. So that kind of experience that I've had has come through sort of a certain type of research, right? One of them is through very keen observation sessions, right? So we had a team of 2 people, me included, and we spent 5 to 6 days a week in grocery stores and retail stores, whether it's an Nature's Basket, whether it's general trade, whether it's a wholesale supermarket. People bought paneer, watching how people bought snacks, watching and talking to them in the store very discreetly, asking if they had brand preferences. We would spend uncomfortably a lot of time at bars and restaurants and very covertly and sly walk around and talk to the consumers there, going, hey, anybody on the table a vegetarian, or what do you like to eat? And beginning to really observe not what the customer said, but how they behaved, right? And when they said certain things, we would sort of just say, oh, can you tell me more about that? Right? And we would engage the customer in a dialogue, because the core is not just what the customer says. The core is what is their motivation for doing that? What's the underlying reason that is causing them to behave that way? And the more conversations you have with consumers, you not only realize that there are certain limitations in a vegetarian's diet, you begin to understand why they're trying to solve those limitations. Because once you really understand that, and you begin to hear it more and more and more, and it's tiring work. Day in and day out, you got to be on the field. Day in and day out, you got to be talking to people. And then you follow it up with a telephone survey or an online survey to get 1,000+ customers to give you the data you want. You begin to form a perspective. And for us, that perspective that we formed was not mine. The perspective that we formed was the consumer's voice that we embraced and said, the consumers are screaming loudly for give me more vegetarian protein options by saying things like, "Arey yaar, मैं रोज पनीर खाना बोर हो गया हूँ यार." मेरी दादी कहती थी कि there's dal में ज़्यादा protein है, there's so much protein in dal. Now I know, I follow this nutritionist on Instagram and I know that's not true. There's not enough protein for my daily use in a cup of dal. And they would say things and talk about things in ways that you begin to connect the dots. And that kind of forward-looking research, right? And saying if the consumer's voice is so loud today about this, we believe the volume of their requirement is only going to get louder. Is only going to get louder because we're a young country where people are hooked to digital media. They are consuming content. So we made two bets that the consumer, based on our insights, need more protein and are asking for more choices based on what we studied. And B, given the demographic of the country, being as young as it is, that demand and requirement is not at its peak. In fact, it is just at its beginning. So when you know that there is a demand for something and you believe you're only in the beginning stages of that demand, you can sort of imagine the opportunity in a country like India, right? Which is the largest population of vegetarians globally, right? We love our Indian food and we love to eat food, right? And the fact that the protein requirement is growing, we connected those dots and felt very comfortable sort of taking that next step onto the bridge that said, hey, whether somebody else has built this bridge or not, I think if we build this bridge, the consumer is going to be waiting for us. When we decided that the opportunity was the protein gap for vegetarians, we made two choices. We made two decisions. We're not going to sell protein shakes and bars because there's a lot of them out there. And we don't want to be plant-based meat, because in our view, plant-based meat was not the product for the Indian vegetarian consumer. Okay, it is ultra processed and consumers were not looking, they were looking for protein. They weren't necessarily looking as a vegetarian to eat something that tasted like chicken. They were looking for protein. So we decided not to do plant-based meat and not to do protein shakes and bars. Instead, what we decided to do was bring a new 1,000-year-old ingredient called Tempayy, which is naturally made through fermenting soybeans into a block that looks like paneer, gets cut into cubes like paneer, but tastes and cooks quite differently and is easy to use in the Indian kitchen. So the product that we decided on was this natural, vegetarian tasting, high protein ingredient that can be easily incorporated into the Indian kitchen to meet the demand that we saw coming and growing in India for vegetarian protein. Those are the dots we connected. The reason I bring that up is because we could have very easily been a new brand of paneer and said, oh, we have more protein than the other paneer, or we could have done protein shakes. But we thought it was really important to create a new category because we thought the demand in the market was going to be for not just what is already here and a new brand doing it, but actually for a new product.